Hello everyone, and today we're going to be revisiting one of the most iconic cards in the entire game of Yu-Gi-Oh! The Blue Eyes White Dragon. Now everyone and their mother knows what this card is. You don't even have to be a fan of the show for this to at least be a joke from your childhood. So the Blue Eyes White Dragon, of course, in the new box received a couple of new cards, and those new cards were very, very impactful for the deck. So what are the two new cards? We've got the Blue Eyes Jet Dragon. Really cool reference to obviously the jet from the original Duel Monster series that Seto Kaiba uses. Very powerful card, very easily summoned using its own effect. Whenever a card in your field is destroyed, it just comes right out from your hand or graveyard. And if it battles, then you get to target a monster your opponent controls and bounce it back to the hand, so that constant recursion and the bouncing as well. Plus, as long as this card's face up, no other card you control can be destroyed by card effects. So a lot of people only play one of this card. We played two of it because one, I like having it in my hand. I really like having it there, to be honest. I was tempted to run a third, but that was a wee bit too inconsistent. But having two of them on the field means that they protect each other as well, so it makes your field completely immune to card effect destruction, which is really powerful. And of course it's a level 8, so you can tag it out of trade-in. It's searchable by melody. So all in all, very powerful card. Definitely a huge fan. It really changes how this deck plays. And the other massive card is Dictator of D, which I think is even better. So he summoned himself for 3 by sending a Blue Eyes White Dragon from your deck to the graveyard, so he's Magician Souls, which is really cool, except he's on steroids because you can then discard any monster in your hand that lists the Blue Eyes White Dragon in its text or the Blue Eyes White Dragon itself to resurrect a Blue Eyes monster from your graveyard. So if you have something like the Blue Eyes Jet Dragon in your grave, or the alternative White Dragon or whatever in your graveyard, or the Blue Eyes just from its summoning condition, you can discard any monster that lists it, including another copy of itself, or the White Stone of Legend, which is the main one, and you can re-summon a Blue Eyes from your graveyard. Typically this makes this card a 1-card Predaplant Verte Anaconda without even touching your normal summon. Or it allows you to extend into things like the Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon. All in all, we're going to be covering off the specifics of it down in the deck profile at the end, but this guy is a phenomenal starter from the deck. Blue Eyes Jet Dragon adds a lot of consistency as well as follow-up to the deck as well. Super powerful. And you've still got your standard alternative shenanigans. You're running a bunch of hand traps, you've got constant searching and summoning from the deck. We're playing the Ultimate Creature of Destruction as well. It's got a really cool interaction with Dictator of D that we'll talk about towards the end. But yeah, really powerful deck. We cut out some of the brickier cards that a lot of people are playing. We are playing DPE. We'll discuss a few possibilities for alternatives there if you don't like that engine at the end, because there are a few. But yeah, if you like what you're seeing and you want to see anything more, feel free to subscribe and leave your suggestions down below. I already have quite a list of decks I'm trying to get through, so I appreciate. I know a lot of people are asking me for Branded Buster Blader. I don't want to throw it at you until it's ready, so leave it with me. It is being done, so don't worry about it. I do have quite a list of decks to get through, so but again, feel free, throw your suggestions down below. I'll add them to the list and I'll get to it as soon as I have the time and budget for it, basically. That's going to cover us off for the intro. Let's just get straight into game number 1. Alrighty, getting into game number 1. Look at this hand. It's not the greatest hand in the world, but it is very powerful. We're able to automatically summon our alternative White Dragon and our Dictator of D, discarding the Jet Dragon to resummon the Jet Dragon onto the field. So just look at that. Within a couple of moves, our board is massive. We're going to use our 2 effect monsters here to go into Predaplant Verte Anaconda to summon out DPE here. Now this DPE is a massively, like in terms of how I would play this is a massively integral part of the deck, because a lot of what you would do is you spam your board out like we did. You're able to very easily go into an interruption or two. We didn't have any tuners in hand, otherwise we would have summoned the Spirit Dragon as well. But again, what this does is this gives us a free pop whenever we want on our opponent's turn, and our field is not only protected from destruction, but we can also bounce a card if he battles it. Fortunately, our opponent's got Lava Golem. He's playing Eldritch, so not only does he Lava Golem us by tributing our 2 monsters, he also uses his Golden Lord to get rid of the Lava Golem he just gave us. So automatically, that really puts us on the back foot here, and you'd think that's pretty much game over. He's going to go into his Golden Lord here, 3500 attack, banishes his Elixir to set from his deck a Haquero of the Golden Land, and then he's going to use Called by the Grave, but for some reason, I don't know if he knew what he was doing. He banishes the alternative White Dragon. Maybe he was worried about that recurring. That's not what you want to do against this deck. So he swings in the Predator Plant Verte Anaconda. Because it got destroyed, the Jet Dragon comes back to the field. He goes into main phase 2 and then to end. During the end of his turn, his Guardian will allow him to set a Scarlet Sanguine from his deck, which will allow him to summon another Eldritch on my turn. So that's not great, but we draw into another alternative White Dragon. That's why we run 2. We don't want to get hit by that Call by the Grave. We're just going to swing into the Golden Lord here. He's going to use his Scarlet Sanguine. Because he already controls a Golden Lord, he can summon any zombie he wants, so he chooses the Necro-World Banshee, which suits me down to the ground. Because the Blue Eyes Jet Dragon can swing into the Banshee, but it doesn't have to return the monster it battles. You target any monster your opponent controls, and it's a damage step effect, so our opponent could not chain their Haquero, could not chain anything to it, and that will come up all the time. People will act and expect to be able to react to the Jet Dragon, but they simply cannot, because it's damage step. Activates the Haquero to defend himself. We take it out. We're going to slap him in the face here with 3000 damage. Hold this L. And we've got 3 big monsters on our field. We were very tempted to go into the... we could have gone into the Hope Dragon here. Hope Harbinger. Would have given us a spell negate. The reason we didn't do that is because we have both Blue Eyes Jet Dragons on our field. He cannot destroy anything on our field, which is big, but at the same time, because he has a Golden Lord in his hand, he would simply be able to send our Harbinger from the field to the graveyard anyway, so we would just be losing out on card advantage for no reason. He is going to ditch one of our Jet Dragons, which is fine. He's going to revive his Golden Lord by sending his Counter Trap to the graveyard. And he's going to, instead of summoning out the Golden Lord itself, again, if you read the effect of Eldritch, the Golden Lord, it lets you summon any zombie monster from your hand, and that monster gains 1000 attack and defense and some protection. So it doesn't have to be itself, it can be any zombie. So he summons out Ballardrock, and this is exactly what I mean. We're zombies, so normally whenever the effect of a zombie is activated, Ballardrock's effect allows you to either negate the effect or banish the monster. Our effect doesn't activate until the damage step. He cannot respond. So his Ballardrock is useless, it gets bounced back to his hand, he has no play, and that is game. He just didn't know that he couldn't use his Ballardrock in the damage step. He thought he was 15 steps ahead, he was 7 behind, and that's basically as simple as that. If you're going to play against things like this, please know your rulings, know what you can and can't do in the damage step. An easy rule of thumb is if an effect does not specifically state damage step, or if the effect does not change your attack and defense, typically speaking, you cannot use it in a damage step. Bear that in mind whenever you're going against this card, because it's usually too late to respond by the time you're going to. But yeah, really cool game against Eldritch. A nice demonstration of the recursion and the power of the Jet Dragon, being able to constantly bounce and come back from the dead, protect your field, and that damage step bounce is so big, it's so important. But yeah, let's get into game number 2. Alrighty, into game number 2. Again, we've got the double Jet Dragon in hand, which you'd think is a bad thing, but looking at the fact we've got the trade in, we've got Melody, we're pretty confident. Our opponent is playing, you're going to notice here in a second, Bee Troopers, which is a really cool deck. I really wanted to include this because it's a really cool deck from our opponent, and this guy doesn't surrender, which is what so many people are doing. It really bugs me that people surrender. It stops me from getting any good gameplay to show you guys. So our opponent goes through a bunch of link plays. I would have been describing them to you if I really knew what was going on, but what they've done essentially is, if I could pause this, they've managed to go through their chain to summon out their big boss monster, which is the giant Bee Trooper Invincible Atlas. Basically, this guy is, so long as he has 3000 or less attack, he cannot be targeted by or destroyed by card effects. He's got that 3k attack, so on our opponent's mind, they're thinking he's not going to be able to beat this thing. We're going to go for trade in here, ditch a level 8 to draw 2. Our opponent's going to go for max C off the bat. Doesn't instill a lot of confidence into us here. We're going to be limited in how many times we can summon. Melody's going to ditch one of the white stones we drew to grab Blue Eyes White Dragon and the alternative White Dragon. Now we're going to add another white dragon, start using our stone. We're going to reveal Blue Eyes White Dragon to summon the alternative. Then we're just going to swing. We're just going to crash. Mutually assured destruction. Because a monster in our field was destroyed, Blue Eyes Jet Dragon comes back out to the field, and we're just going to slap this man on the wrist for 3k damage here. He did get to draw a couple of cards, but not too many. Sage, we're going to summon Sage to try and add an effect feeler to hand. That was the plan, but our opponent had an effect feeler of their own, so we get negated, which is fine. And then we're just going to synchro summon into the Spirit Dragon just to give us a little bit more versatility on our opponent's turn. Yes, they do get to draw one, but in my mind it was worth it. Our opponent's going to go for Bee Trooper Descent here, giving themselves a token right off the bat, and because they summoned an insect, they get to summon their Scale Bomber. Goki Pole comes out here to let them link summon again. Goki Pole, of course, activates in the grave, so we're going to negate it. Our opponent then is going to use their Scale Bomber to destroy our Spirit Dragon upon activation, so we're going to chain the second effect of the Spirit Dragon to tribute itself to summon another Light Dragon. At that point, our opponent's going to chain link 5 with the Sting Lancer, bouncing 2 cards back to deck from either graveyard and then summoning itself to the field, so up to chain link 5 there. The Spirit Dragon still summons the Azure Eye Silver Dragon from our extra deck. We negate the Goki Pole, and the chain resolves. Azure Eyes is going to activate to protect itself basically until the next turn. His Sting Lancer would have searched for another Bee Trooper spell or trap card. If given that he only has 1 card in hand, I just sort of want to make sure he has no more plays, so we're going to negate that with the Effect Veiler. Unfortunately, our opponent could summon the monster in their hand, so they're going to go into their Inzektor monster here, shuffle 3 back into the deck to draw 1. And they're going to use their Armor Horn here to special summon the monster from their hand. They're going into another Atlas, so we're going into a second Atlas. Atlas has a couple of other effects as well. You can tribute a monster, an insect monster, to either special summon a Bee Trooper from the deck or have it gain 2000 attack. So he boosted himself up to 5k here. Bear in mind, if he has himself boosted, he's no longer protected by his own effect. That's why it's specifically worded like this. And he attributed a Resonance Insect, and when it's sent to the graveyard, it searches his deck for the Doom Dozer. So in this man's head, he's just going for some big damage here. He's going to summon out the Doom Dozer. He's going to try and take out our Azure Eye Silver Dragon by battle. He destroys it. When it's destroyed, guess who comes back out? The Jet Dragon. We have the second one in our hand. Drawing the 2 of them at the start ended up winning us this game. Our opponent, of course, can't get over the Jet Dragon with their Doom Dozer, so we are all good there. We top deck into the alternative White Dragon again, and we're going to summon it, use its effect to take out the Doom Dozer. Exceed summon in the number 97 Draglubion. Use Draglubion's effect to exceed summon into the Numeron Dragon. Numeron Dragon detaches a material, gains 1000 attack per rank in the field. We swing in for 6000 damage over his Atlas. No 3k Peter is going to be enough to stop the Blue Eyes. So yeah, that's the big OTK play of the deck. Going into the Numeron Dragon is usually, that's the turn you're going to end the game. So it's always a really handy play to have in your back pocket, because that Atlas is a real problem. It's pretty strong. I just wish it had slightly more attack points. I was disappointed by how easily we were able to beat it, you know what I mean? Especially Blue Eyes. Maybe it would be more difficult for another deck, but I can't really think of a meta-relevant deck that would struggle to get rid of it. Yeah, I just wish it was a wee bit stronger, you know? Give it 4000 attack, you know? Give it 3500, that'll be fine. But yeah, that's it for game 2. Our opponent didn't surrender first of all, so props to him. As soon as I saw, if I were in his shoes and I saw number 97 come out, I'm scooping. So fair play to him for sticking in there. Really fun and interesting deck from our opponent, and yeah, that's what you like to see. Let's get into game number 3. Alright, getting into game number 3, we have a really solid hand here. We're going to discard the alternative White Dragon to draw 2 off trading. We double dead trading in hand, which, you know, didn't turn out all that well. Going to summon out the Dictator and the Sage. Sage, of course, this is a really cool combo as well. So if you have both Dictator of D and Sage with Eyes of Blue in your hand, you've got a few different plays you can do. The one I prefer is typically I'll summon out Dictator of D, then normal summon Sage of Eyes of Blue. Sage of Eyes of Blue will search your deck for the White Stone of Legend. Because the White Stone of Legend specifically lists Blue Eyes White Dragon in its text, you can discard it with the Dictator of D to summon the Blue Eyes White Dragon from your graveyard, and then search for another Blue Eyes White Dragon off of your White Stone of Legend. So that means you'll have 3 monsters on board and you'll get to draw an additional one. You'll be set up for a synchro summon and all sorts of good stuff. So that's typically how I would do it. The alternative play, of course, is you can summon your Dictator of D, then use the second effect of Siege with Eyes of Blue to send it to the graveyard to summon the Blue Eyes Jet Dragon from your deck. So it really just depends on your field and setup at the time. Usually if I'm going first and have nothing, I'll do it this way, just because you get more resources out of it. But either way is good. Our plan here was to grab a Blue Eyes to trade it in for 2 more cards, but unfortunately our opponent has the Ash Blossom. Why they waited until now is beyond me, but such is life. We're going to synchro summon here into the Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon. We're going to set one and pass. Remember, if you control a Blue Eyes monster and Dictator of D, you control your opponent's attack targets. Our opponent's going to take out the Imperm here, and they're playing the Numeron Network. Now, ladies and gentlemen, who knows this little effect here on the Spirit Dragon that nobody ever reads? Neither player can special summon 2 or more monsters at the same time. So he only gets to summon one of his gates. So he summons out the gate number 1, he's going to use that to go into C1, he banishes the whole field, which is still really unfortunate, but we're still alive. We top deck into the Melody of Awakening Dragon because we're just the best player in the game. We're going to grab an alternative white dragon and a white dragon, special summon our alternative, we're going to slap him for 3k damage, and we're feeling pretty confident. So going into the next turn here, our opponent's going to get their Sunya back to the field from the banish pile. That's fine, they can resummon their Sunya. It's only got 2k attack, it's no threat to us whatsoever, and our opponent has no additional plays. Now, we were sort of up in the air as to whether or not we wanted to take this Sunya out. We decided to be aggressive, we're going to destroy it, and we're going to set the Call by the Grave. This was probably a mistake. We probably should have left the Sunya as it was, because it was stopping his Numeron network from resolving. Although the Archfiend Empress here is going to try and take out our Call by the Grave, we're just going to activate it now. We might as well. We target Numeron Gate 1 purely banking on our opponent misplaying, and hopefully attacking with the gate number 1 first. But I mean, again, if you're relying on your opponent misplaying, you've already lost. Our opponent summons out their gates again. What are you going to do about it? They're going to swing in, do a whole bunch of damage. Every time, again, for anyone who's never faced this, which I highly doubt there's anyone watching this who hasn't faced this, every single time one of these guys battle, they cannot be destroyed by battle, and every time one of them does battle, it doubles the attack points of all of the Numeron monsters on your field. So basically the game plan is they build up until finally they have 8,000 attack and hit you directly, and that's game. So it's a really cheesy OTK. I really hate going against it. It's not a fun deck. As you can see, we had the counter in the Spirit Dragon. We had like a hard brick counters and you're not getting past this, and we still managed to lose that matchup. So I don't know, I'm not a fan of that deck, to be honest, just in general. It's not very interactive. But yeah, that's game number 3. Again, the deck isn't invincible, it still can be a little bit inconsistent, and sometimes the specific types of interaction you put up are pretty important. Perhaps the DPE play would have been more appropriate there. It might have been a little bit stronger instead of the Spirit Dragon, because we could have stopped the Numeron network sort of cold turkey. But again, there's no way to know for sure. So we're just going to have to take it as it comes. So yeah, that's game number 3. Let's get into the deck profile. Alrighty, getting into the deck profile here. For the most part, this is fairly standard, but it is pretty customizable, to be honest. We're going to start off with what we've actually got, and of course, as per usual, we're going to cut out all of the hand traps so you can see how many flex spots you've got to work with. So we're playing 3 copies of Effect Feeler, very useful because it can be searched off of Siege. For that reason, you can even cut this down if you want room for something else, but Effect Feeler, very useful card in the current metagame. We've got the triple Max C, of course. We've got the triple Ash Blossom, of course. We've got that double Call by the Grave. We've got that triple Infinite Impermanence. So you've got, I've got 14 flex spots here. So quite a lot of room for you to do whatever you want with. You're usually going to have at least a couple of hand traps in your hand. So again, a deck that can fit 14 hand traps into it is very, very good. And the reason we're able to fit in 14 is because there's a lot of cards that people would normally play that we have sort of cut out to make the deck a little bit more competitive and consistent, rather than looking for, you know, spicy replays here and there. This deck's actually a lot less bricky than people make it out to be perfectly honest. It's just because they're playing really bricky versions of it. I don't know what to tell you. So we're going to start off, of course, the Blue Eyes White Dragon. You cannot run 2 of it. You need 3. I tried it with 2. It broke my heart to craft another freaking copy of the damn thing, but I had to do it because you just couldn't make it work with 2. It was too inconsistent. You needed to constantly have something with Dictator of D. You just... The deck is so turbo and resource heavy that you just have to have a third one. You just do. It does negatively impact your consistency. I mean, to an extent, you always have trade in, which helps, but it does sometimes have a negative impact on your consistency. But you just have to. You can try it with 2, by all means, go ahead, but there are going to be games where you would think to yourself, man, I wish I had 3 of this thing. So, yeah. White Stone of Legend. This is a card I am constantly fighting with myself to put up to 3. I was thinking about cutting the Ultimate Creature of Destruction and putting this up to 3, to be honest. Basically, it's super simple. It's a level 1 tuner for a start, which is really good. And then when it's sent to the graveyard, you add a Blue Eyes to your hand. A Blue Eyes White Dragon to your hand. There's a few things that make this really good. Its interaction with Siege of Eyes of Blue, so it's searchable, right? And its interactions with Dictator of D. This guy can discard a card that specifically lists the Blue Eyes White Dragon to resurrect a Blue Eyes monster from your graveyard. So that is this guy. So not only do you discard this to resurrect the Blue Eyes, this guy will also grab another Blue Eyes White Dragon from your deck to discard off of Trade-In, discard off of Melody, reveal for Blue Eyes Alternative. There's so many things you can do with that extra card that it becomes really, really powerful. I would probably cut the Ultimate Creature of Destruction. It's here for a cool interaction, but it's really not all that great. I would probably play another copy of the White Stone of Legend. Big consistency card. So your next one then, Sage of Eyes of Blue. I'll actually put this up to 3 for now. Put it back to how it actually was. So Sage of Eyes of Blue is your best normal summon, so it is. Whenever it's normal summoned, you add a level 1 light tuner from your deck to your hand. That is either one of your 2 stones or Effect Feeler, which is also a level 1 light tuner. That is a pretty cool interaction. For that reason, a lot of people would probably play, instead of 3 Effect Feeler like I play, probably play 1 Effect Feeler and then maybe some Ghost Bell or something. Which is totally fine and legitimate, and by all means, knock yourself out. I just prefer having the multiple Veiler because it's not once per turn, for a start, and it's just particularly strong at the minute with being able to negate things like Lebellion. So, I don't know, I'm a big fan of Effect Veiler, so I like it at 3. So Sage will search for either your stones or your Effect Veiler on summon. It also has a second effect where you can send an effect monster you control to the graveyard to special summon a Blue Eyes monster from your deck. And that now includes the Blue Eyes Jet Dragon, which makes that particular effect a lot more powerful than it was. So having the Jet Dragon on your field is always a good thing. And once you get it into play, a lot of the times you don't need it. You don't need the second one because it can constantly recur itself. So really, really strong. White Stone of Ancients, this used to be the more powerful of the 2 stones. I don't like it as much as just the basic one now. During the end phase of the turn that this guy is sent to the graveyard, you can special summon a Blue Eyes monster from your deck. That's cool and all. It can be useful to like get a Jet Dragon at the end of the turn. That's nice. But if you have gone into your Predaplant Verte Anaconda, that effect can't be resolved. It's a bit slow. It doesn't happen until the end of the turn, which I don't really like. So it's a decent card. It's a nice fallback, but it's not my go-to. And then its second effect, and arguably its more useful effect, is it can banish itself from the graveyard to add a Blue Eyes monster from your graveyard back to your hand. That's perfect if you need a Blue Eyes White Dragon to reveal for alternative, if you need a discard fodder for trade-in, if you need something to discard off of Melody. So the second effect I think is much more powerful, but the first one as well on occasion comes up. Dictator, we've talked about in depth already. This guy is insane. Special summon himself by sending Blue Eyes from deck to graveyard. Discard a Blue Eyes related monster to summon another Blue Eyes from the graveyard, and it's a Blue Eyes monster, so it can also include your Jet. Dictator is amazing. You also choose your opponent's attack targets when you control a Blue Eyes, which did come up. I went against a branded Thunder Dragon player. They swung with their Titan into my Dictator of D, or sorry, no, they swung with it was like a 20, I think it was a Colossus into Dictator of D, redirected straight into the Jet Dragon, and because they attacked with something that wasn't their biggest monster, the Titan got bounced, Colossus lost its fight, they had to end their turn. Really, really funny. So yes, that effect does come up. We've got Destiny Hero Fodder for the Destiny Fusion Destiny. Use whatever applicable Destiny heroes you want. Specifics don't matter. Dynatag occasionally is useful for that 1000 attack increase. Dasher is, I would say Dasher's more useful because if you draw into like a Blue Eyes White Dragon, Dasher can like turbo it out of the field. So this takes care of top decking into bad monsters. Dasher can make that a little bit easier on you by making those monsters summonable right out the gate. So you might even want to consider double Dasher, but neither here nor there. Destiny Hero Fodder, do what you want. Blue Eyes Alternative White Dragon. Summonable by revealing a Blue Eyes White Dragon in your hand. Once per turn, target a monster your opponent controls, destroy it, but you cannot attack that turn. Again, this guy was the monster that made Blue Eyes viable, to be perfectly honest, back in 2016 when it won Worlds. Really powerful card. It's just super accessible. Very easy level 8 that you put on your field. Perfect for synchro plays. It's an effect monster, so it's perfect for Verte Anaconda. It's a big beater if you need to just take something out. You saw us going toe-to-toe with that Atlas. So yeah, honestly, all around really strong card. In terms of just its utility with its level, being able to summon, pop, and then use it as material for something else. Just really consistent and strong card. Blue Eyes Jet Dragon, we've talked about this already. We're almost blue in the face talking about this. Summon it when something's destroyed. It can bounce whenever it battles. It protects all of your other cards from effect destruction. There's just a lot going on here that makes this card amazing. You can play this at 1. I haven't really been talking about ratios. Alternative Dragon and the Jet Dragon, you can play these two cards at 1. You can. A lot of people do. I disagree. I think both of them are very, very powerful. I don't mind seeing them in my opening hand. A lot of people would rather search for or mill the Blue Eyes Jet Dragon or get it off of their stage. I really don't mind seeing these guys on my opening hand most of the time. So I will play multiples of them, plus with 2 jets specifically. If they're both on the field, they're protecting each other as well, so that means nothing on your field is destroyable by card effects. While it's not impregnable, it does add a lot of defense to your field. Trade-in. Discard a level 8, draw 2 cards. Really, really strong. Melody of Awakening Dragon. Discard a card, add 2 of your big dragons to your hand, so any 2 of these guys. Fusion Destiny, of course, for the Fusion Hero Destiny Destroyer, Phoenix, Enforcer. And lastly, the Ultimate Creature of Destruction. Again, this card, the reason it's in here is it makes one of your Blue Eyes monsters completely immune to everything, and also anything it battles gets destroyed. It also has a cool interaction where if you summon a normal Blue Eye, a normal level 8 dragon monster, it sets itself from the graveyard. So if you have this card and Dictator of D, you'll summon Dictator of D by sending Blue Eyes from deck to graveyard. Discard the Ultimate Creature of Destruction to summon the Blue Eyes from the grave. That will trigger the Ultimate Creature of Destruction's effect to set itself from the graveyard. So completely, it makes this guy essentially a +1 instead of just a neutral break, which is really, really powerful. But at the same time, the Wildstone of Legend accomplishes a similar goal. This adds power, this adds consistency, so it depends on what you want. If you wanted to just be as consistent as possible, you would just go 3 stones, or maybe 2 and 2 on the stones, something like that. But again, balls in your court there. I like the Ultimate Creature of Destruction. It's a bit of a meme, but it's fine. Grant, I've been rambling on a good bit here, so we're gonna rattle through the extra deck. Most of this is fairly straightforward. DPE, of course, for our Predaplant Verte Anaconda plays. We've talked about this video after video after video. I'm not going to recover it again now. But Predaplant Verte Anaconda is a massively important part of this deck because if you get interrupted once or twice, you're almost always going to be able to summon this guy through those disruptions. So being able to go into DPE almost completely free of consequence is usually extremely powerful, and this guy just wins games on his own. He's nuts. You just can't get rid of him unless they have Call by the Grave. He's going nowhere, and he will win you games. Next up is our Synchro Dragons. So we play 2 copies of Blue Eye Spirit Dragon, 1 copy of the Azure Eye Silver Dragon. We're not playing Moonlight Rose Dragon or anything like that because they're URs. I don't have them. I wouldn't play them anyway, to be fair. Spirit Dragon, 3 main effects, sorry, is a passive effect saying your opponent can't special summon more than 2 monsters at a time. Perfect against Numerons, really good against Pendulums, so it's sort of very matchup specific, but it does come up. Once per turn, it can negate a card that activates in the graveyard, and you contribute it to special summon your Azure Eyes from your extra deck. So it's that simple. Azure Eyes will, when on summon, it will protect all of your face-up dragon monsters from destruction and or targeting until the end of the following turn. So he's really good protection. And then during your standby phases, you pick a normal dragon in your graveyard and resummon it, so you can resummon your Blue Eyes White Dragon. So very good card, very safe. Typically the Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon would destroy the monster it summons, but the Azure Eyes Silver Dragon protects itself from destruction. So that works out. We've got the Vermilion Dragon Mech, solid level 9 synchro. Banish a tuner from the graveyard to pop a card. It's a very aggressive synchro monster, so it doesn't come up very often, but it is handy to have on occasion. You can replace this with the Moonlight Black Rose Dragon if you want. Either or should be fine in this slot. I don't really use this guy very much. We have our Exceed monsters. Most of these are just generic Exceeds. So you've got your Galaxy Eyes Full Armor Photon Dragon, your Cypher Dragon, and your Cypher Blade Dragon are just generic Exceeds for rank 8s. You have your Draglubion, which is your main rank 8 Exceed. Once per turn, choose one of your number dragon monsters, so it says number in the name and it's a dragon. Summon one, attach a number as material. So if you want an additional interruption, you summon Harbinger and attach an 82. If you want the OTK, you summon number 100 and attach an 82. It's that simple. And then you just sort of beat their ass. Link Spider is here to turn your Blue Eyes into an effect monster if you need to. Basically, Link Karibo, because you play a bunch of level 1s, it's handy to have sometimes. Not essential, but it's cool on occasion. And Vertanaconda, which again we're blue in the face talking about. So yeah, that's my version of Blue Eyes. It is relatively straightforward. It's not as flashy as other people's versions, but it will win you games 100%. I've been going on loads of little mini win streaks throughout Platinum. It's definitely not 100% win rate. I would say it's probably 60 to 65%. So I would say anything above 50 is good, because all you really need is above 50 to get to Diamond. It's just going to take a long time if you're at 50. But this deck, you could quite easily, I would say, climb to Diamond. I would say in a number of days it would take. But yeah, definitely powerful enough to get there, definitely powerful enough to compete. So you love to see it. I love seeing these older decks become viable, especially in ways that aren't typical. You know, I don't like seeing a deck become powerful because it suddenly starts abusing a broken mechanic that every other deck is also doing. No, I like seeing a deck become powerful through its own unique traits and its own unique cards. Love to see it. I've been rambling more than long enough here when it comes to this deck, so as I said earlier on, if you like what you're seeing, you want to see more, subscribe, leave your suggestions below, and I'll see you all in the next one.